Hello, my friends, family, saints, and ain'ts. I'm actually in a different spot. I'm not outside today. It's so dark out today, but I'm really happy to be here and I am excited about what we're going to talk about really briefly today. Um, I try to just share something for radiant wrap, something that can be radiant in our lives, and that radiant is an acronym for rest, activity awareness, diet, introspection, which is prayer and meditation, agua, which is our hydration, note taking. Speaking of hydration, I'm drinking a LaCroix. I think that's how you say it today. I'm not drinking my regular water. This is sparkling water, and training is the T for radiant. Let me just take a sip. I really like carbonated water or sparkling water, if you will. It's just a little something, something. So I like it. Yes, August. It's National Breastfeeding Month. I nursed all my babies, and I think that's a big deal. And that actually is applicable to what we're talking about today in terms of our diets and the different diets that we have. I found out it was National Relaxation Day. I'm not sure how long that day has been around, but it's National Relaxation Day. It's summer, fun, safety. That makes sense, right? And it's also back to school month. This week is, or today actually, is back to school prep. Now, here in Florida and some other places around the country, especially in the South, we're already back in school. Public schools are. And yeah, a lot of college students, I don't know if they're back in school, depending on what their schedules are. So I'm praying for all of those students who are back in school. It is ASHA's Safe and Sound Week. And that's for safe and sound on the job. There's a lot of different companies that need to have rules for hazards to protect against them. Let's see what else. It's India's Independence Day. I didn't know that one. And it's also Leather Craft Day. And that's significant too with the topic that we're talking about because we're talking about different diets. And one of them, which I would say I lean more toward, is vegan. And what I do want to do is actually differentiate or define what these are. And as a vegan, it depends on how you define yourself as a vegan. Because some vegans, I use that term because if I'm out at restaurants, if I just say I'm plant-based or, especially if I use the term plant-based, people don't really know what that means. And even vegan people don't know what that means. So for someone like me, what it means is I don't eat meat. I don't eat seafood. I don't eat dairy. Anything that comes from an animal, I don't eat. That's what a lot of people would say vegan is, but I hear people say they're vegan, but they do this, but they eat ice cream but they, whatever the but is. But no, if you're vegan, you don't really do seafood. No animal product, no dairy product. But there's another group, and some people may be listening to me and say, well, it also means that you don't have leather purses or, you're very animal. You're a big animal advocate. And I am like for our planet and for the world, but I'm not so much so that I'm not going to have a leather bag if I want to. So someone would say, well, Shannon, you're not really vegan. Another thing I may do is like in my diet, if I use collagen is not a vegan product. So someone that's a strict vegan would say, Shannon, you are not vegan. Honey comes from a bumblebee. And every now and then I might have some honey. So someone might say, Shannon, then you are not vegan. So that is pretty much the definition as I understand it for a vegan, and how even among vegans, we may differ in what we define as vegan. But for all intents and purposes, if I'm at a restaurant or something like that, I use that term because people are going to more than likely understand it. Now, let me say this. Just because something is vegan doesn't mean that it's healthy. So you could be a healthy vegan or unhealthy vegan because processed foods can be vegan. Sugar, processed sugar and sodium, those that can all be and is in a lot of vegan food. So if you're eating a lot of that type of food, then you're not necessarily being healthy, but you are refraining from animal products. And I'll get back to the animal product. Let me just touch on, okay, so yeah, this was some of the questions. Let me see if I can do that. Yeah, there you go. Some of the questions that we had for diet dish. I called this because I'm kind of giving the dish, the tea, if you will. So those are some of the things within a vegan diet that we're going to, you're going to have. You got anything from the earth, anything that is not from an animal. And someone said was interesting because last week someone said to me, well, no, a vegan is anyone that is just eating vegetables. I've never heard of that definition. Like this right here, this plant right here is a rice plant, rice farm, So even grains, they come from plants. This is a peanut farm. They come from plants. So that's my definition as I understand it. Now, plant-based, which was interesting too, because there was different conversation about being plant-based. Sometimes people will say they're plant-based. I say that a lot if I'm really being technical, but plant-based could be you're eating mostly plants. You're eating mostly plants, not all, but mostly. And it could mean that you still have some meat products, some fish products, some dairy products in your diet. Okay, plant-based, like a Mediterranean diet is a plant-based diet, but they have seafood and other things. So some of these can be interchangeable, right? A pescatarian diet is someone that has seafood. Typically, a pescatarian is not going to eat meat, right? Or they're not pescatarian. And sometimes some pescatarians, like my bonus dad, he's pescatarian, but he does not eat shellfish. So some pescatarians will refrain from eating shellfish. And shellfish does have higher cholesterol, sodium, and can have more parasites. And even seafood, some of your seafood like tuna can have high amounts of mercury. So there are some recommendations that you don't have too much of certain types of seafood. But overall, pescatarian is going to have seafood in it, but not like meat or chicken. And some people, of course, who who eat meat, they may just eat chicken and may not consider, they might not eat red meat, or they eat lean meat. So they'll eat pork and chicken, but they won't eat red meat. Or they'll eat pork, beef. I meant to say beef and, yeah. Some people will eat beef and chicken, but they won't eat pork. So there's all these different, choices and options. And Virginia says she eats wild, not farm raised. And so, which is great. When you see some of these farms, it look horrific. And even with wild seafood, there is recommendations that you don't have too much of it still, because of the things like mercury. And if you're eating shellfish, those same things would still apply. Okay. So good to see you, Regina. And then the last category is a carnivore. So a carnivore, and some people are proud to be carnivores, will eat mostly meat. Like they won't eat a lot of vegetables. They'll eat basically meat. That's like the biggest part of their diet, and they're proud to be carnivores. And of course, there's some health reasons why that might not be a good idea to just, eat mostly meat. And a lot of that has to do with your arteries, of course, because, it's not good for your heart and cholesterol and inflammation. And I find that a lot, I can say as well, with dairy too. Sometimes you can be sensitive to animal products, and like say you give up dairy, if you're having problems with your skin, it may clear up your skin. If you're having cholesterol problems and you cut back, yes, it is a big part of keto diet. And so, keto diet is a lot of, they do eat some vegetables, but they're not going to eat any like grains, and they're not going to have like a lot of fat in their diet other than the meat that they have. And so a lot of people really are, I think, not looking at the keto in a healthier version of keto, which would be lean meats and still eating vegetables, and then they'll stay away from the grains and so much, and or all altogether. And they have found that they can lose weight on it. You can lose weight on a keto diet, and you can stay in ketosis, but it can wreak havoc on your arteries and on your heart. Okay. So what do I want to say in conclusion about, and so good question. Thank you for asking that. What do I want to say? Overall, that there is no perfect diet. Like they all have some advantages and disadvantages, and it depends on how you're moving that diet, how you're ingesting that diet. Like you can be a very unhealthy vegan, as I said. It doesn't make you healthy. But also in the United States, meat and dairy is a huge industry. So it is pushed, a lot. If you look at commercials, like during a game or something like that, you'll see a lot of meat commercials, because they're going to all be in hoots, fast food restaurants, and meat and dairy. It's a lot of money is tied up into that industry. Okay. And then also, it's what I find really interesting, and I think I want to talk a little bit more about this some other time, maybe even next week, is that in the United States, we actually have ingredients in our foods, in our same version of foods from certain companies that in Europe, they don't have those particular ingredients. And it's banned because in the United States, a lot of times it is considered generally recognized as safe. If a chemical or a product is considered that, then it's okay. And until there's research done to prove otherwise, then companies can get away with having that product. Now we're getting into processed foods. That's why I'm going to save that for another conversation. But I will say that there is one product I know, like Skittles, say for example, has this chemical in it that Japan, Europe, and Canada have banned that chemical from being in the product. And so much so, I think the United States may be moving in that direction. It's called titanium something, right? It's a chemical. And yeah, California has now banned Skittles. Isn't that something? But yes, a lot of products in the United States, we can get away with having a certain thing. A lot of cereals, I'm talking big companies like Kellogg's, things like that with cereals, they can put certain chemicals in the product here. And then if they're making the same products over in Europe, they're not using certain chemicals. So I find that interesting. And then what I don't have one here as well is that pharma is also a huge company in the United States. So, hey, keep us sick a little bit so we can keep buying all the drugs that we need. So here we go. The takeaway for today is regardless of which you choose, I'm definitely not going for the carnivore. I'm definitely not. I'm not asking or advocating for people to be a vegan, but I have been advocating for a long time, even before I was a vegan, and I still do advocate for it now, is to eat a large variety of fruits and vegetables. And the reason I say especially vegetables is because a lot of times we'll look at eat fruits and vegetables and we're eating mostly fruit and we're still not eating enough vegetables. And we need to make it a variety. A lot of people, they'll eat one or two different vegetables and that's it. But we need to open up our minds and try different ways of preparing and different foods without all the fat and all the fried foods. We'll be surprised once we're introducing these foods to our bodies and how we may feel and how much inflammation is removed from our body once we eat them, that we may start feeling like, maybe I should eat some more vegetables and some more fruit. If we eat too much fruit, it's still, even though it's natural sugar, it can raise blood sugar. So if you're pre-diabetic or you're diabetic, you don't want to have too much fruit. Fruit is good. That's where we want to get a lot of our vitamins from, but not too much. We want to have more plants in our diet. So that's where that plant-based, some people consider that definition. They'll do all the other things, but they are focused mostly on plants. And then maybe a little bit of dairy, maybe a little bit of the meats, maybe, a little bit of seafood, but the core is the dairy, is the vegetable. So that's what I'm advocating for you to try. More vegetables, please. And some fruit, please. Why? Why am I doing that? Because I love you. There is nothing you can do about it. You have greatness inside of you. This is the temple. This is what we have to work with. It's the only one we have while we're here on this planet. So let's take care of it. Okay, let's be good stewards of this body. Bye for now.